Good afternoon, everyone. Do we have any conflicts in the room? Nope, great. Okay, we're calling the case of New Barnes versus Thomas R. Klein High School. Plaintiff, can I have your appearance, please?
Stephen Dixon. Here on behalf of City of New Barnes, representing the minor child for New Barnes.
Okay, this is a big room and it kind of gobbles up your voice, so you're gonna have to keep your voice up, okay? Can you tell me your name again?
Yes, my name is Liz Parker.
Liz Parker. And can you tell me your name again?
Christina Grace Harding.
Christina Grace Harding.
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 Yes.
Great.
We have here notices of appearance for self and your honor. I hope that's what you approach.
No need. Can you just tell me your team number?
Team 107.
All right, so our plaintiff team is 107. We have Liz Parker and Christina Harding. Okay, defense.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Allison Newman, and alongside my co-counsel, Melina Patrici, we represent the defendant in today's case, Thomas R. Klein High School. Our team number is 105.
Okay, so for defense, we have 105. Allison Jordan, and can you give me your name again?
Yes, Melina.
Letieri?
Yes.
Great. Melina Letieri. Okay. Plaintiff, do you have any pretrial matters to address?
Yes, Your Honor. If you possibly matter, would like to address the one substantive motion as well. I'll start with the motion.
Sure.
May we move freely about the law?
Yes.
Can we confirm that all objections and arguments are heard outside the presence of the jury constructively?
Sure. So if we're going to get into an elongated objection argument, I just ask that you ask to constructively approach or request a sidebar, and obviously we will not actually do that. Okay.
Chairman, may we confirm that all witnesses are constructively pre-sworn?
Yes.
What are your preferences for approaching jury, witnesses, and Your Honor?
I'd ask that you ask to approach.
May we, at this time, we move to constructively sequester all non-expert witnesses?
Okay. Any objection to that?
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay. So experts will remain in the room and our non-expert witnesses will be sequestered.
We'd also like to put you on notice that pursuant to pretrial court ruling 7, the plaintiff in today's case, or the minor child the plaintiff is representing in today's case, New Barnes, is unavailable to testify as a witness of trial.
Okay.
Lastly, Your Honor, we had a very productive meeting with our opposing counsel when we were able to stipulate the pre-admission of the following exhibits.
Sure.
Exhibits 1, 3, 7, and 8A. Additionally, Your Honor, pursuant to pretrial ruling 6, exhibits 5 and 10 are also admitted.
Okay, so that's 1, 3, 7, 8A, 5, and 10.
Yes, Your Honor.
Great. Anything else?
Yes, Your Honor, we did have one substantive motion that we were able to stipulate with opposing counsel.
Great.
It was just to exclude exhibit 14, which was a video of an NFL player discussing the quarterback's.
Okay, counsel, is that accurate?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Anything else?
That's all I'm planning for ready to try this case.
Great. Defense?
Yes, Your Honor. Before publishing to the jury, would you like us to ask to publish or maybe publish free?
You can publish freely. If it's admitted into evidence, feel free to publish. You don't have to ask.
Yes, sir. And with the experts in today's case, would you like us to tender formally or maybe lay the foundation?
I would like a formal tender.
Your Honor, the defense is putting the court on notice that this is a bifurcated trial, and we are only trying the liability phase today and will not get into it.
Okay.
We also are putting the court on notice that the defense is not trying the affirmative defense today as assumptions of this, and we discussed this in the public. And with that being said, when it comes to the verdict form, we would like to adapt question number 3 as it goes to the assumption of risk.
All right, that sounds good.
And with that concludes all of our preliminary matters, and we have one motion.
All right, let's hear it.
Yes, Your Honor. The defense's motion today concerns any anticipated testimony about Coach Howe's character.
Specifically, the defense anticipates that the plaintiff is going to attempt to elicit testimony concerning Coach Powell's actions with this team and how those actions then create a character trait for a lack of concern for player safety. Because this would go to show that Coach Powell acted with conformity each and every time during practice and each and every time interacting with those students, that is inadmissible character evidence under the board.
Okay, so we have, we're moving to exclude any evidence of Coach Powell's character for what?
A lack of concern.
Okay. Response.
Yes, Your Honor. We don't offer any of this evidence about Coach Powell's actions with students to prove a character trait or any action for propensity. These actions that Coach Powell used when he interacted with Marie, the plaintiff in this case, goes right to show whether he was a reasonable person, and that's part of our burden here today. We have to prove that he was reasonable in his decisions and that he was not, we have to prove that he was not reasonable in his decisions and that he was negligent. Part of that goes to his instructions to Marie. That is not propensity evidence, it's not inadmissible character evidence, it's exactly what happened, and it's all at issue in this case today.
Okay, so we're kind of talking about this in the abstract, right? So can you tell me specifically, what are you going to offer that you think they have an objection to?
We are going to offer that Coach Powell yelled at Marie at practice to get lower to the ground, which was an instruction that made this play more dangerous. Additionally, we're going to argue that Coach Powell also yelled at Marie after they ran it in the game and that he threatened to replace him with 2 other quarterbacks. That's not offering this that he has a lack of concern for player safety, but that his choice in this case was unreasonable and therefore negligent.
Okay, so defense, they're going to offer Coach Powell telling him to get lower to the ground, yelling at him and threatening to replace him. Do you have an objection to that?
Your Honor, any action or incident in which Coach Powell yelled at things, I don't agree for any of the other players can go to the outcome for lack of concern for player safety. You see that we think that it is still fair.
Okay, I'll give you the final word.
Your Honor, again, we have the burden to prove that he did not act reasonably in this case. Therefore, his actions concerning Marie at practices where they were practicing the sneak push, which is what ultimately led to Marie's injury, is extremely relevant to today's case, and it is not being used for character evidence. It is being used to show what a reasonable person is.
Okay, I am going to deny your motion. I'm going to allow them to offer the specific phrases that we discussed, but if it veers beyond that and you think that something they're offering is inappropriate, please feel free to re-raise your objection, okay?
Yes, Your Honor. And then one last thing.
Sure.
We did have a very successful meeting for paper, like the one about the motion, and this motion had to deal with the exclusion of any testimony regarding applying high school's decision to ban the TBC push at the school after Ruth's injury just because this is subsequently elected.
Is that accurate?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay,
And with that, Your Honor, the defense is ready to proceed with its statements.
all right. Plaintiff, let's hear it.
Can't risk a child's future. Say Your Honor. In 2024, Marie Barnes was starting his freshman year of high school. It's a time where teenagers start to look forward to what their life may look like as an adult. Plan for college, a career, a hope for the future. But in September of his freshman year, Marie's plans were forever changed. See, Marie was the starting quarterback for his freshman football team at Thomas R. Klein High School. Marie, he was good. He was a hard worker, an incredible athlete. He listened to his coaches. So when the head coach at Klein High School, Coach Jackie Powell, told Marie that he was going to be running the quarterback sneak push, Marie did as he was told
Because Coach Powell had an idea that he thought would guarantee a winning season for his freshman football team. He wanted to run the sneak push play just a little bit differently. He wanted Marie to be like a spear, propelled head first across the line of scrimmage by his teammates who were pushing him from behind. But no matter how Marie ran that play, Coach Powell wanted him to get lower and lower and lower. It wasn't until September 9th that Coach Powell was finally pleased with how Marie ran the play. He had finally gotten it right. But after Marie gained that arm, he didn't get back up. Marie was taken to the hospital, and they found he suffered a spinal cord injury that left him quadriplegic. Marie was just a 14-year-old boy when his life was changed forever. He was never going to get to live out the future that he and his loved ones had hoped. Members of the jury, that is why the plaintiff was brought to claim of negligence against Thomas R. Klein High School. Now, the judge is going to explain the law to you at the end of the trial. But for us as the plaintiff, that means we have to prove two things to you here today. The first, that Thomas R. Klein High School, through the acts or failures to act of its employees, is negligent. Second, that negligence caused Marie's harm. We have to prove both of those things to you by preponderance of evidence. All that means we have to prove it was more likely than not the Marie's coaches did something that they shouldn't have done, or didn't do something that they should have done, and that was how Marie got hurt. We're confident we're going to meet our burden here today. Let's talk about how. First, you're going to get to hear from Al Clue, the offensive coordinator for Marie's freshman football team. Clooney is going to tell you about how Coach Powell, the head coach of high school, and how he needed a win after 2 losing seasons in a row. You'll hear that Coach Powell thought that if the quarterback sneak push worked for the Philadelphia Eagles, it would work for his high school freshman football team. You'll hear that Coach Clooney, he warned Coach Powell. He didn't think the play was safe. But you'll see that Coach Powell ignored those warnings and chose to run the sneak push with Marie anyway. You'll hear about everything that Coach Powell did to get Marie to run that play exactly how they wanted him to. And you'll hear that on September 9th, Marie ran the play exactly how he was coached. Face tucked into his chest, his body and his head parallel to the ground. Coach Clooney will tell you that after Marie ran the play, call out to him, asking if Marie was okay. But Marie couldn't respond. Couldn't move. Members of the jury, you'll see that Coach Powell risked Marie's future to save his own. And you're also going to get to hear from Dr. Kensington Hopper, consulting team physician for UCLA Athletics, and a practicing sports medicine physician at Cedars-Sinai. Dr. Potter is going to tell you about all of the risks of the sneak push and why he believes the play isn't safe. You'll learn that all of those risks are compounding. Just inexperienced high school players whose spines, necks, and skulls aren't fully developed yet. And you'll hear about the way Klein previously pushed, with Marie's head down, made the play even more dangerous, subjecting his head and his neck to additional force. You'll learn that after Marie ran that play, it was found he suffered an acute cervical spinal cord injury that left him paralyzed from C4 all the way to. Now, members of the jury, the defense, they don't have a burden in today's case. They don't have to put up any evidence or call any witnesses. But if they do, I want you to listen to what they will tell you, what they won't say. We expect you make it to hear from the defense's own expert, Dr. Omega. As you listen to her testimony, I want you to pay attention to what she actually does and how she knows Jackie Powell. Members of the jury, we expect to see that Dr. Adams has their own biases in today's case. Now, we also expect that you make it to hear from Coach Jackie Powell herself. As you listen to her testify, I want you to pay attention to what she did and didn't do to make sure her players are safe. We expect you'll see that Coach Powell risked her players' futures to save from. Throughout the course of today's trial, as you listen to all the testimony and you view all of the evidence, I want you to pay attention to what Marie's coaches, the people entrusted with his safety, ignore. I want you to pay attention to the risks, the bans, and the warnings. Members of the jury, we expect you'll see that Coach Powell ignored those risks, didn't care about fans, and should have listened to the warnings. Why I ended today's trial, my co-counsel, Christina Grace Farley, and Sam for you. She's gonna go through all of the evidence. By the end, you will see what we see. Coach Powell risked a child's future to save his own. And Marie will never be the same. Find Clyde High School live. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Spence, whenever you're ready.
Why do bad things happen to good? Sometimes an accident is just that. Accidental, unexpected, unpredictable. And you cannot prevent what you cannot predict. Klein is home to Jackie Powell. She has taught and coached football there almost 10 years. She has spent the past decade pouring into her students and wants to spend the next decade doing the same thing. But ever since Jackie Powell became the head coach of Klein's freshman football team, the team hasn't been performing well. The past 2 seasons, they've gone 1-9. And honestly, Coach Powell knows that in order to keep doing what she loves at the place she loves, something is going to have to change. And that change is going to have to be the offense. Klein's freshman team has to score more points. So just like any other high school and Pop Warner football coach, Jackie Powell and her offensive coordinator, Al Coney, are locked in to college and NFL. So when they need to make a change to their team's playbook, they look to the pros. You see, the past few seasons, college and NFL teams have been running the quarterback sneak push. It's a play used by the offense when they don't need to get any yard. And as you just heard, when the quarterback sneak push is run, the ball is snapped to the quarterback, and then 2 or 3 of his teammates push and pull. NFL teams have had a lot of success running this play, especially the Philadelphia Eagles. And as Eagles fans themselves, Coach Powell and Coach Coney recognize just how much potential this play actually has. They at least have to try it. And with Marie Nuberance entering into his freshman year and joining the team, Klein might actually have the players they need to make the QB sneak push work. You see, Marie has raw talent. He has grit, he's a hard worker, and he's got a rocket on. He has all of the makings of a star quarterback. He's small. He's 5'2", barely 109 pounds. Now, obviously, Klein's freshman football team are not grown men like NFL athletes. So in order to make the QB sneak push safe and effective, Coach Powell is going to have to make a few adjustments. So when they decide to run the quarterback sneak push, he comes up with an idea that he thinks might actually work. NFL quarterbacks are strong. They're nearly double Marie's weight, and he was saying this from the defensive line that Coach Powell just knows Marie can. So he has Marie get low. Really low. So low that he shoots through the defensive line with the spear before they even have a chance to tackle. Coach Powell runs this play with those changes at practice on strong. And it works. It works the first time. The second time they run it, the third time they run it. But when the team runs the play in its first game of the season, he doesn't get noticed. And he fails to break through the defensive line like he had each time in practice. Coach Powell was disappointed. In his mind, this play only works if they run it the way she designed it. For this team, for this quarterback, for Marie. So when the team suits up for practice on September 9th, Coach Powell has no time. And this time, Marie does get loaded. He does exactly what he's supposed to do. But unfortunately, as we heard today, he doesn't get back up. Marie suffered a spinal injury, an injury that devastated the Klein community and what happened on September 9th is a tragedy. No one here is denying that today. Everyone knows that football is dangerous. But no one expects to sustain a life-altering injury. Especially not on a play like this. Nothing like this has happened before, and nothing like this has happened since. Because while the QB sneak push may be a relatively new play, teams across the country have been using it. From high school to college to the NFL. No one has been injured running this play at the high school or college level. And despite the NFL running it hundreds of times, there have only ever been 2 injuries. Both of those injuries were minor. And neither of them happened to a quarterback. Everyone expects minor injuries in football. Every time a player steps onto the field, he may walk away with a few bumps or bruises. Maybe a sprained knee or ankle, maybe even a concussion. But there are some injuries that are so unexpected, so unpredictable that no player, no parents, no coach can prepare for that. And you cannot prevent what you cannot predict. And the law doesn't require you to. The law did not require that clients' coaches predicted unforeseeable tragedy, but rather that they acted reasonably under the circumstances. You will hear today that clients' coaches did act reasonably under the circumstances. They're high school football coaches who saw an opportunity to make their team successful. Yes, they recognize that this play carried risk. So does every other football. You will learn that based off of the limited research that was available when Klein decided to run the QB sneak push, this play was no riskier than any other play. Klein's coaches did what coaches are supposed to do. Teach. Prepare. Give their athletes a chance to succeed. Klein was looking forward to watching Maurice. And just because he was injured out of practice does not erase the fact that sometimes accidents just happen. Look, it's natural to want to find someone to blame when something as tragic as this happens. But there's no one to blame. Klein's coaches could not prevent what they could not prevent. Which is why at the end of this trial, my counsel, military, will stand back before you and ask that you find Thomas R. Klein High School not viable.
Thank you, counsel. Plaintiff, call your first witness.
Yes, plaintiff calls out on to stand, a brief moment to set up the well.
Sure.
Finding
What do you do for work?
I'm a high school physics teacher at in high school, and I'm also the head coach of the junior varsity football team.
What did you do before this?
I was a physics teacher at Klein High School, and I was also the offensive coordinator for the freshman football team.
How long were you at Klein High School?
Started there in 2014, and I was there up until last season.
Who were the other coaches of the Klein freshman football team?
So there's myself, the offensive coordinator, with Powell, who's the head coach, and Jane, who's our defensive coordinator.
Now, I want to talk about the plaintiff in this case. Who is Marie Barnes?
He was the quarterback for the freshman football.
Would you recognize the photo of him by worship with you?
I would.
Showing the movie house a little bit and feeding it and the bit one. What is that photo?
The photo of Marie.
Is permission to publish to the jury?
Sure.
When was this photo taken?
For our last football season.
How big was Marie when you took that photo and that photo was taken?
He was 110 pounds and 5'2".
All right, you can put that to side. What kind of plays did you have Marie run?
A lot of different plays, but specifically when we turned to Marie's team.
What is the Marie team?
It's a short yardage, play designed to, essentially physical offensive. Third line where you had three offensive players essentially pushing the quarterback over the yard line. Usually, tight ends are on that position quarterback.
In the 2024-2025 season, were there other short yardage plays you could use?
We had 13 other plays that we could use.
Would you recognize the diagram of the sneak push by the show team?
Yes.
What did I just do?
It's a diagram of the snake motion.
And how do you recognize it?
It was in our photo.
Permission to publish to the jury by way of motion?
Sure.
May the witness step down to make use of that.
Sure.
Can you describe what's happening in this diagram?
Sure, so this is the defense of the other team. Here's our center, who sets the ball to the quarterback. This is our offensive line. There's the quarterback, and there's three other offensive players. We have two tight ends and one running back pushing the quarterback to sneak around and sneak push.
You can take the seat. Thank you for that. When did you run this play?
We originally practiced it on August 20th.
What happened in that August 28th practice?
So we ran the play 3 times and Coach Powell had directed Marie to get low, test parallel to the ground, and head tucked in.
And what was the next time you practiced this play?
So we had practiced it 3 times on August 20th, and the last time that it was practiced, Coach Powell grabbed Marie's helmet and said, "Get low."
Did you run this play again?
Yes, so in our September 5th football game against Rockville High School,
Who called the play during that game?
Coach Powell, she was the head coach.
When Coach Powell ran the play, what happened?
It was actually unsuccessful. We ended up losing a yard. And then after the play, Coach Powell said to Marie, "You need to get your test parallel." I'm sure AJ and John will be in it.
Who are AJ and John?
They were our backup quarterbacks for the Preston footballs.
When was the next time you ran this play?
That would be September 9th.
What happened on September 9th?
Practice, so we're running a play. Marie did it exactly how I was instructed to do. Test parallel, get low, head tucked in, and then we get up.
Now, I want to talk about something different. Are there any rules regarding the sneak push in high school football?
So the NFHS, which is the national organization that's organized for the nation, essentially has a statement essentially saying that the sneak push isn't acceptable.
And do you follow the NFHS rules?
So there are guidelines, each state uses their own rules. We follow the Pennsylvania Athletic Association rules. The PAA put in a ban of the play the 2025-26.
And how did you know about this ban?
We got an email from our athletic director. They let us know May of 2024 when the PAA released that.
Whose idea was it to run the sneak push?
Coach House.
When did they bring this up?
We were at the Wicked Wolf on July 1st, talking over some beers about the play. We brought it up, the success of the Eagles, and wanted to try it.
And did they give any indication why they wanted to try this play?
So, the past 2 seasons before this last season, we were 1 win. and 9 losses. There was talk of us all being replaced.
What did you say to Coach Powell when she brought it up?
It was unsafe for high schoolers to do it. I mean, there have been injuries in the NFL with this play and we had received notice that it was gonna be banned as long as even.
No further questions.
Thank you, council. Any cross?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you want this up here or? Okay.
Chris Clemmy, you have never played a single down of tackle football in your life.
Nope, but I coached it and I've watched tons of video games.
You also started as a water polo,
That's correct.
and then you coached flag football.
That's also correct.
All of your experience with football comes from coaching
Yes.
or,
I'm a good coach.
or watching football.
I'm also a good watcher.
And because you watch football, you know that it can be dangerous.
Yes, there's risk of injury.
It is a contact sport after all,
It is.
which is why players wear safety gear.
Yes, wear pads and helmets.
Yeah, they wear knee pads,
Yes,
hip pads,
yes,
shoulder pads,
yes,
and like you mentioned, they even wear a helmet.
they do.
And even with all of that safety gear, players still get injured.
Sometimes, yes.
They can get injured at every level,
Yes,
in every game,
always have a possibility, yes,
and every type of play.
yes.
And in fact, 2 players have been injured running the QB sneak push.
Yeah, the Giants,
And both of those injuries were minor,
yes,
and neither of those injuries happened to a quarterback.
also correct.
Both of those injuries actually occurred in the exact same game,
Yes,
on the exact same run of the play.
yes,
And other than those 2 reported injuries, there have been no other injuries while running the QB sneak push in the NFL.
not that I know.
Now, you mentioned on the rep that the NFHS was planning on banning the quarterback sneak push in the 25-26 season.
You mean the PAA?
Well, the NFHS, I'm sorry, banned it in 24-25.
Yes,
But the NFHS is a national organization
yes,
that states can choose to adopt.
yes,
And Pennsylvania has not adopted the NFHS.
until the 2025-2026.
Yes, and when this play was run by Coach Powell, it was the 24-25 season.
That's correct.
Now, the NFHS banned the QB sneak push because of competitive advantage,
Yes,
to level the playing field.
yes,
And you and Coach Powell still ran the QB sneak push in August.
that's true.
You ran it 3 times.
August 20th, yes,
Every single time, every player got back up.
yes,
No one was injured.
not during those practice runs, no.
You then ran the QB sneak push in a game.
Yes,
And during that game, everyone got back up.
yes, Marie seemed to have some back pain, yes.
And Marie came to you when he stood back up and told you that he was fine.
He said he would be fine with the next drive.
And he continued to play in the game the whole rest of the time.
Yes,
No one else has been injured running the QB sneak push,
well, Marie was, yes.
other than the instance we're here about today.
Not that I know of,
Not in high school,
not that I know of,
not in college,
not that I know of,
not in the NFL.
not that I know of.
In fact, other than the instance we're here about today, there has never been a quarterback injured running the QB sneak push.
My knowledge.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you, council. Any redirect?
No redirect at this time, Your Honor, just add that.
Okay, great.
Permission to approach the jury and the witness to.
Sure. All right, council, whenever you're ready.
Plaintiff calls Dr. Constantine Connor. Good afternoon. Can you please introduce yourself to us?
My name is Dr. Kennedy Todd.
What do you do for a living, Dr. Carr?
Currently, I have 3 roles. I am a consulting team physician for the UCLA athletic teams. I am a clinical professor at the UCLA Graduate School of Medicine, where I teach musculoskeletal and sports medicine. I'm also an attending physician at Cedars-Sinai Hospital.
What's your educational background?
I received my biology degree from UC Berkeley in 2007, and then I earned my doctorate in medicine from UCLA Graduate School of Medicine in 2011.
Licenses and certifications, people.
I am certified by the American Board of Family Medicine. I've also obtained an added qualification of sports medicine.
How long have you been practicing sports medicine?
About 10 years.
Have you ever been published?
Yes, in March of 2024, I wrote a report titled "The Medical Risks of the Tush Push: A Physician's Perspective." That was published in the American Journal of Sports Medicine in April of 2024.
Carr, what do you do as a consulting teaching physician for UCLA?
So I consult on a variety of medical issues for all of the athletic teams at UCLA, including football. I consult with them once a week, and then the rest of my time is spent treating patients at Cedars-Sinai.
And what kind of conditions do you treat at Cedars-Sinai?
I treat a wide variety of sports-related and musculoskeletal conditions.
How do you treat patients' sports injuries?
I typically apply my knowledge of the musculoskeletal system and apply that to the sport or the related practice within a sport. This is not only to ensure that I treat the injury, but that I also am ensuring the safety of other athletes at UCLA.
Are these principles and methods reliable in your view?
Yes,
When it comes to your work in this case, what did you review?
I reviewed all the exhibits.
Were you able to apply the same principles and methods that you use in the work to your work in this case?
Yes,
Now, without saying, were you able to come to any conclusions?
yes, I was.
Were your conclusions a product of those principles and methods?
Yes,
The plaintiff tenders Dr. Kinsey Carter as an expert in musculoskeletal conditions and sports medicine.
Okay, sports medicine, and did you say what did you say?
Musculoskeletal. Your Honor.
Musculoskeletal conditions. Any objections to those areas?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, great. So the expert is accepted as, or the witness is accepted as an expert in those areas of expertise. Go ahead.
Now you mentioned coming into some conclusions. What is your opinion on the quarterback seat?
the quarterback sneak push poses an unnecessary risk to musculoskeletal and neurological health by increasing the risk of various injuries, including knee injuries, arm injuries, concussions, and cervical spine injuries.
How does the play increase the risk of cervical spine injuries?
The play subjects the quarterback to additional axial loading, which is compression along the axis of the spine. I can demonstrate what I mean by using a physical model of the spine that I brought with me.
Permission to approach opposing counsel.
Go ahead.
Approaching the witness, what has been remarked for identification as exhibit 7. What about each thing you do, Dr. Carr?
This is a physical model of the human spine.
Is it a fair and accurate depiction of the human spine?
Yes,
Clinic now seeks to publish what has been created as my use of exhibit 7 to the jury.
Sure.
Dr. Carr, can you show us where the cervical spine is?
yes. Would you mind pulling this for me so I can demonstrate to you?
Permission for the witness to step down.
Sure, go ahead.
So the cervical spine is the first 7 vertebrae of the upper region of the spine, right here.
What is axial loading?
Axial loading is when force is applied along the axis of the spine, which is here.
So how does axial loading occur specifically in the sneak push?
So in the quarterback sneak push, the quarterback begins with him slightly crouching down and his head up, which means his cervical spine is slightly flexed. When the play begins, his teammates push him from behind, and that's when the force is applied along the axis of the spine.
What happens when that force is applied along the axis side?
Well, in the quarterback sneak push, when there's people pushing him from behind, and he takes force from the front as well as opposing players push back, that creates significant compression along the axis of the spine and in the lower back, which can increase the risk of spinal.
Just gonna set this here with you.
Recognize the scene, but if you were to see it today.
Yes.
Permission to refer to the council this.
Sure.
Protein fitness, same. What if I just played for you about the car?
That was a video of the Philadelphia Eagles running the quarterback sneak push.
Is it a fair, accurate depiction of the quarterback sneak push?
Yes.
Has anything about the play been changed or altered in any way?
No.
Plaintiff seeks to enter what has been pre-marked for identification as exhibit 9 into evidence as plaintiff's exhibit.
Okay, exhibit 9, any objections?
Good.
Okay, it's admitted.
Permission to publish to the jury.
Sure.
Can I ask the witnesses questions about this video? Can this witness step down?
Yep, go ahead.
Permission to play the video on 0.25 speed so that the jury can see what's a relatively quick moving play easier.
Do we have any objections to speeding up the video? No? Okay, then go ahead.
First, I mean, what's happening given on this play here?
Yeah, so as you can see, the Eagles are lining up front, quarterbacks push. You can see the quarterback here, Jalen Hurts is in a similar position to the one that I just described. He is slightly crouched down with his head up. Like I said, it's just like this.
What's happening here as the play starts?
So as the play begins, you can see his teammates begin to push him from behind, and that's what I was talking about earlier, where his teammates are putting force along the axis of the spine there, which is starting the spinal compression above that.
It's there as the plays continue.
So as the play continues, you can see the defenders pushing back, and that is when not only is he having force along the axis of the spine, but he's also getting force from the front, which again is increasing pressure on the surface.
Happening right here as the play ends.
So as the play ends, you can see that additional defenders are piling on top of him. Again, that's the additional force that quarterback is sustain from players falling on top of him and increase the axial loading on the spine.
What do you see? Earlier, you stated that the sneak push poses an unnecessary risk. Why do you believe the risk to be unnecessary?
Yeah, well, football players are always subject to axial loading injuries, but this play specifically increases the risk unnecessarily of spinal injuries by increasing the spinal compression along the cervical spine, again, which makes cervical spine injuries a lot more likely.
Have other quarterbacks suffered spinal injuries in the sneak push play?
Besides Marie Barnes, no, but the quarterback sneak push, as it's been run by the Philadelphia Eagles and other teams, is relatively new to the NFL, and it's it's also banned in almost every high school league.
What do you know about that man?
So the NFHS is an organization that puts forth the best practices and guidelines for high school football teams to adopt. They put forth Rule 9-1, which effectively banned the quarterback sneak push. It's my understanding that the Thomas R. Klein High School football team did not adopt. Well, it's my understanding that Pennsylvania, the state of Pennsylvania, did not adopt Rule 9-1 until the to put into practice for the following season.
You may, go ahead.
What if I just hand
This is Rule 9.
What if it's fair after fiction is all running on what to review it in order to this case?
Yes.
Has anything changed or since you last reviewed?
No.
Let us seek the error or the modified and state the other than the and as plain as the
Okay, any objection to 18? All right, submitted.
permission to publish.
Go ahead.
Dr. Carter, what does the school say about why? Stage?
Well, the rule says that it's to promote competitive balance between the offense and the defense, but it also is to prevent injury to underdeveloped players.
You agree with this reasoning?
Yes, I do. Underdeveloped players, like high school football players, have weaker spines, they have weaker bones, joints, which make them more susceptible to spinal injury. Additionally, the uncontrolled pushing that the play has with unexperienced players at the high school level can lead to inadvertent force applied along the axis of the spine.
In the context of today's case, would the quarterback be been unsafe for a high school freshman and party?
Yes, size and differences can also lead to an increase to injuries to the cervical spine, especially when pileups are occurring. So running this play at the high school level would have posed an unnecessary risk.
What do you know about the way Klein High School ran this English?
Well, they instructed Marie to put his head down and his upper body parallel to the ground. This is not the way that it's run in the NFL.
What's your opinion on this change in positioning?
It would have subjected Marie, in this case, to additional axial loading along the axis of the spine.
How did having her set down subject him to additional axial loading?
Well, typically, as the play is run, the quarterback will be upward like this, and he'll take on force from the front and pushing from the back. But the way that Marie was instructed to run it, his upper body was parallel to the ground, and his head was down. So all that force that is typically applied to the front is now coming down on his head and neck, which would increase the risk of cervical spine.
Were you able to review Marie's medical records in this case?
Yes, I was.
Would you put some back to the read headed? Permission to push this.
Yep.
Permission to publish the jury as well.
I'm sorry, what is it?
Permission to publish the advice to jury as well.
Yeah, go ahead.
Dr. Carter, according to these medical records, what happened when Marie read this thing about
So on September 9th, Marie Barnes was admitted to the hospital with a comminuted fracture on the C4 vertebrae with associated spinal compression. Despite Marie having surgery, he suffered a complete spinal injury at the C4 vertebrae. This would have left him quadriplegic, paralyzed.
Can you show us where the C4 vertebrae is?
Yes, so the C4 vertebrae is the fourth vertebrae right here. Like I said, he suffered a comminuted fracture at the C4 level, which meant that his vertebrae was shattered into minute fragments.
Thank you, Dr. Carter. No further questions.
Thank you, counsel.
This is the president.
Sure, take your time.
Your Honor, permission to review exhibit 7.
Correct, but
Potter, you see this?
Yes.
Okay. Dr. Potter, you talked a lot about your qualifications on directed peer counselors, so I'm gonna take a moment to start by talking about your past.
Sure.
You do work with patients that have spine injuries,
I do.
but spinal cord injuries, they are not your specialty.
No,
Right, because you're not a neurologist
no,
or a neurosurgeon.
I'm not.
You hold no certifications in neurology,
No,
no certifications in neurosurgery.
no, just physician and sports medicine.
You have never performed surgery on a spine before.
Uh,
Yet, Dr. Cotter, here you are today testifying about what could have prevented a spinal cord injury.
yeah, I do treat spinal cord injuries in my office.
And the spinal cord injury was sustained by an athlete.
Yes,
You work with athletes
I do.
once a week.
Yes,
Dr. Cotter, you claim that Klein did not adequately prepare to run the QBC push.
yes,
That's because they did not conduct research.
no,
Let's talk about the lack of research you based your opinion. One of your opinions is that the QBC push was too dangerous to run.
yes, it increases the risk of spinal.
Right, so Klein should not have been running.
Not in my,
Well, Dr. Cotter, your other opinion is that Klein did not practice this play enough.
I think you should have been practiced. Yeah,
Right, you wanted them to run it more.
I did, yeah.
Dr. Cotter, which one is it?
I think they would have noticed how dangerous it was if they practiced it.
Right, so you wanted them to run that play more.
I think, yes,
Either way, Dr. Cotter, you claim that they did not conduct enough research.
no,
Let's talk about the research and data that was available at the time that Klein chose to run the QBC push. You would agree with me, this is a relatively new play.
yes,
The Eagles were the first team to run it.
the quarterback's the most, yes,
They started running it in 2022,
yes,
just 3 years ago.
right.
Your Honor, permission to use the whiteboard as demonstrative?
sure, go ahead.
Dr. Cotter, prior to the 2024-2025 season, the QB push had been run a total of 215 times in the NFL.
Yes,
And in 2023, there were 2 injuries in the NFL associated with that play.
that's correct.
Dr. Cotter, this is the data available on the play at the time that Klein decided to run the QB push.
The way it's run in the NFL, yes,
Right, and this was the only data available on the play at the time.
right.
Yet your opinion is that they should have conducted more research,
I think they could have, yes,
even though there was hardly any data available on the matter.
right.
Well, Dr. Cotter, the data that was available showed that the play was pretty safe.
Data isn't the only way you can determine whether a play is dangerous.
Well, Dr. Cotter, let's keep talking about this play. After the 2024-2025 season, the play was run a total of 316 times in the NFL.
Yes,
During the 2024-2025 season, there were no injuries associated with that play in the NFL.
the way that it's run in the NFL,
Right, so there were only ever 2 injuries in the NFL associated with this play.
right.
Out of 316 times that this play was run, there were only ever 2 injuries associated with it.
That's correct.
And those injuries, they were minor.
Yes,
A sprained knee,
yeah,
a dislocated shoulder.
yes,
Neither of those injuries resulted in paralysis.
no,
Neither of those injuries happened to a quarterback.
no,
But there have been injuries associated with other football plays. Right, because football is a contact sport.
It is.
Thank you, Dr. Potter. I have no further questions. Your Honor, permission to preserve this demonstrative as defense's exhibit A.
Thank you, counsel. Any redirect?
When did you publish the article about all of the risks of the snake fish?
I published it in April of 20.
And when was the rule adopted by the PAA banning the rule for the next one?
May.
Earlier on, we heard a lot about data on the snake fish. Was there any data on the way that line just from the snake fish?
No, like I said, the quarterback sneak push that is run in the NFL is entirely different from the way that the Thomas Klein High School ran the play.
You know of any team that's ever run the play like this?
No.
No further questions. We just asked this with the seat.
Thank you, counsel. Okay, anything else from the plaintiff?
Yes, Your Honor. At this time, the plaintiff seeks to call Marie Barnes by deposition, given that he's unavailable to testify as witness at this trial.
Okay, we're outside the presence of the jury. Have you shown or discussed with counsel the lines that you'll be reading?
Yes.
Do we have any objections to any of the lines?
No,
Okay, great. Go ahead.
Maybe stand in the minutes.
Sure, go ahead.
During everything was powerful here, they were on August 20th. We talked to the quarterback sneak.
Coach Powell showed me a picture of Jalen Hurts and said I should be much lower, knees bent, with my face and torso parallel to the ground.
How did you feel after you ran the play in practice on August 20th?
I was getting drilled on my back, it hurt. I didn't say anything to Coach Powell. Coach Powell always says, every week is sprint week. The best players play through injuries.
What happens when you ran the quarterback sneak push against Robert Little?
We lost a yard the only time we ran it. I ended up at the bottom of a pile of 6 players.
What did Coach Powell say to you after the quarterback sneak push against Robert Little?
Coach Powell screamed at me and said I wasn't doing what Coach Powell told me to do. Coach Powell threatened to replace me.
What happened when you practiced the quarterback sneak push on September 9th?
I ran the play just like Coach Powell told me. I felt multiple players hit me on my neck and back. I felt a jolt down my spine like an explosion. I couldn't move my arms or legs. Our trainer and coaches rushed the field and an ambulance took me to the hospital.
When you signed Exhibit 2 and decided to play basketball football, what injury risks did you think you were facing?
It's football, so I knew there could be injuries, obviously. I know some players have gotten hurt really bad, but I figured if I practiced, played smart, and listened to my coaches, I'd be okay.
Thank you, counsel.
Versus training training.
Sure, go ahead. Anything else from the plaintiff?
No, Your Honor, this one, the rest.
Okay, before we take a brief break, do we have anything from the defense?
Yeah, sure. Your Honor, the defense suits under Rule 50 of the Federal Rules of Procedure for a judgment as a matter of law. When viewing the evidence in the light most favorable to the non-party, here the plaintiff, no reasonable juror could find the preponderance of the evidence that crime was negligence or that alleged negligence caused the injury. We heard on examination today that even Coach Clooney recognized that this play did not carry a substantial risk and that there had been no injuries to a quarterback. And we also heard from Dr. Kinsey Potter as an expert that this play should have actually been practiced more, and the fact that even if it had been practiced more, there's no subsequent research to tell clients coaches that an injury like this would have. Therefore, this motion to be carried.
Okay, any response?
Yes, Your Honor. Taking all the evidence in the light most favorable to the plaintiff of non-moving party, a reasonable jury could absolutely find the school liable. We heard testimony from Dr. Potter about all the risks that Coach Powell didn't even bother to look into. And how those risks were increased with Murray's head down. We heard about how this play was banned in 48 states and how it was going to be banned for the next season. And Coach Powell didn't bother to look into the ban. Coach Clooney warned him, hey, it's banned. He didn't think. We also heard that Coach Clooney warned Coach Powell. A fellow coach didn't think it was safe, didn't think it was reasonable to run this play. And Coach Powell decided, as the head coach, to run the play anyway. Looking at all of that evidence, knowing most favorable to the plaintiff as the non-moving party, a reasonable jury could find acting negligently. Further, Your Honor, we heard from Dr. Potter how having Murray's head down increased the risk of cervical spine injury, the exact injury that Murray suffered. Therefore, a reasonable jury could find that change made by Coach Powell, the change that he didn't even bother to check what risks they would expose him to, caused Murray's injury. Therefore, we respectfully ask that you deny this motion.
Do you want to respond?
Your Honor, we stand on previous grounds.
Thank you, counsel. The motion is denied and we will take a brief 5-minute break. Okay?
Yes.
You know, that's from any collective coach, not. Yeah, it's okay. Sure, information, we're on the same page.
Okay, do we have witnesses, everybody we need? Yeah,
Yeah, Your Honor.
all right,
Paul Jack Powell.
great.
First of all, we've heard a lot about it. Why don't you go ahead?
Good afternoon, my name is Jacqueline Powell.
What do you do for a living?
I teach history at Thomas R. Klein High School, but I also am the head coach of the freshman football team.
How long have you been?
About 10 years at this point.
Did you ever play football yourself?
When I was younger, but I was really surrounded by football growing up.
And you mentioned earlier that you're the head coach. You've always held that position?
No, before I worked at Sanford High School, there I was an offensive coordinator, and then I moved here because I wanted to go up in the ranks a bit.
Well, I want to talk to you a little bit about your program at Klein. How's it doing?
Not great. We had 1 win and 9 losses for the 2022-2023 season, and then the same for the next season.
Were there any changes you were trying to incorporate to make your team better?
Yeah, one of our biggest problems was with the short yardage issue, so we wanted to fix that, and the way we tried to fix that was through a play called the quarterback sneak push.
Well, for us that don't know what the QBC push is, what is it?
It's basically where the quarterback is in front of 3 different players, and what happens is the 3 players kind of push the quarterback to go past the defensive line.
Is this play effective?
It is, it's had a lot of success, it's run hundreds, even thousands of times.
Have you ever seen that in high school run this play?
No, I thought of us as the pioneer of that.
Did you do any research regarding the QBC push?
No, I saw it in the professional field for the NFL, the Eagles do it all the time.
And has anyone ever been seriously injured running the QBC push?
No, not that I know.
So let's talk about when you decided to run the QBC push. Who did you have perform the play?
Marie Newbarents was our quarterback, that was the one that was executing that play.
Did you run the QBC push the exact same way that the Eagles did?
No, he was a little bit smaller, he was 5'2", 110 pounds, so we adjusted the play to be a bit more to his stature.
What exactly did you change about the play that you had crazy to do?
I asked him to get lower so that he could kind of spear through that line a bit easier.
Did you practice this play with Marie at all?
We did, we practiced it 4 times.
And at that first practice, how many times did you?
At the first practice, we ran it 3 times with no issue.
Did Klein ever run the QBC push in a game?
We did, September 5th, we ran the sneak push then, but the issue was Maurice didn't go low enough.
Why did you make a modification for Marie to keep up?
For his safety, that was our #1 concern, we wanted to make sure that he got that yardage without sacrificing his safety.
And what happened at that game when Marie did it?
Well, the players kind of collapsed on top of him a little bit, but he wasn't injured at that.
Was anyone injured that were running the play after practice on August 20th?
No, not one player.
Was anyone injured while running the play at the game?
No,
Now I want to talk to you about the next time Klein ran the QBC push. When was that?
September 9th,
How many times did you run the play that day?
we ran it once with no issue.
What happened on September 9th to why we ran once?
Well, the play went fine, everything went well, except I was called over, and after that play, Marie was on the ground.
How did Marie get injured running the play that day?
He didn't bend low enough, and because of that, the players collapsed right on top of him.
Why did you only practice the QBC push total of 4 times?
Because we weren't really having that many issues with it, there were no problems.
Based off of what, was it safe for Marie to run the play the way we designed?
Yes, of course, we addressed.
Objection, improper opinions.
Okay, can you elaborate a bit?
Yes, the opposing counsel just asked this witness, who is not an expert, whether the play was safe in the way that she designed it and had it run. She is not a doctor and not an expert in this case, therefore she cannot testify to whether the play as she designed it was or safe.
Okay, response.
Your Honor, Coach Powell just testified that they have over 10 years of experience in football and more than qualified to say whether or not the play they chose to run was safe for the kids.
I'm gonna sustain the objection. Go ahead.
Yes. Coach Powell, would you ever put your players in a position where they could have been?
No, ma'am, I designed that play so that I could ensure more his safety.
Coach Powell, would you ever knowingly put your players in a position that caused them harm?
No, that wasn't my intention, I care about my players.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Thank you, counsel.
May I see?
Yes.
You became head coach of Klein freshman football in 2022, right?
Yes, that's correct.
And in your first 2 years as head coach, you had 2 losing seasons.
I did.
Only 1 win
Yes,
and 9 losses.
yes.
This was embarrassing for you.
Was a little bit, no football coach, no one really likes to lose.
And so you thought your job was on the line.
I thought there was a bit of pressure.
So you needed to win more games in the 2024 to 2025 season.
Yes,
And according to you, Coach Clooney recommended that you run the sneak push,
yes, at the Whipping Wolf.
but you weren't so sure that it was safe.
At that moment, I was a little bit concerned.
But you called the play anyway.
I did after I saw it in the NFL.
Even on direct, you called yourself a pioneer for doing so.
For the high school circuit, yes.
Even though you claimed you didn't believe it was safe.
That was before I watched the NFL.
Now, you had actually run a QB sneak play with freshman football before this.
Yes,
It was a different play than the QB sneak push.
yes.
And on that play, you had no injuries,
I know, I didn't have any injuries on that play.
but you never ran that play with Marie.
I know I did.
And you never ran that play with the other players pushing them.
No, I didn't.
And you never ran that play with the alteration you made.
I did.
Because you wanted it run differently this time, right?
Yes, I did want to run it a bit different.
You wanted Marie parallel to the ground,
I did.
with his chin tucked to his chest.
Yes, ma'am.
And you never asked anyone if that made it more safe.
I didn't. I was just adjusting it to how I thought it would make it easier for me.
Right, you wanted to try to make it more safe.
Yes,
Because he's smaller than NFL players.
yes, 5'2".
5'2" and 110 pounds.
Yes, that's right.
And also because the other players on the Klein freshman football team were an average of 5'10"
That's correct.
and 200 pounds.
Yes, that's yeah.
But you also had 2 other alternate quarterbacks
I did.
that were both bigger than Marie as well.
Yes,
Now, I want to talk about the ban. The NFHS banned the sneak push, correct?
yes, but we follow what the PAA says.
Right, you follow the PAA rules, and in May of 2024, the PAA adopted that.
For the 2025-2026 season.
Right, but you knew of it in May of 2024.
Yes,
And so you knew the play was going to be banned and still chose to run it.
yes,
And you didn't ask anyone why it was banned.
I did not.
You knew 48 other states had banned it and you still didn't look up why it was banned.
No, ma'am.
You didn't ask the trainer why it was banned.
No, I didn't.
And even though you had been told by your boss to discuss the safety of practice plans with your trainer.
Yes,
And you didn't run the sneak push by the trainer.
I did not.
You didn't run the alteration to the play by the trainer.
I did not.
And you knew it was going to be banned and you still didn't ask the trainer first.
That's correct.
No further question.
Thank you, counsel. Any redirect?
Now, we just heard a lot about ban and FD says that. During the 24-25 season, was the ban effective in Pennsylvania?
No, it wasn't.
And we also heard a lot about this modification. Why did you make the modification?
I made that modification for Marie. I wanted to make sure that we improved our team's status over the next season.
Was there anything particular about Marie that made this modification necessary?
Yeah, this is a shorter kid. I wanted to make sure that he was safe when running a play such as this. Otherwise, he would have people collapsing over him.
Thank you. No further question. Ms. Wood, please excuse.
Yes, thank you, counsel.
Your Honor, the defense calls Dr. Amelia Adams. Please, introduce yourself now.
My name is Dr. Amelia.
Dr. Adams, what do you prefer?
I'm a neurosurgeon. Nowadays, so I would say I probably spend more of my time consulting.
You said you're a neurosurgeon, so how long have you been practicing?
I say it's probably close to 20 years, so I've got it for 5.
Where did you go to school at?
I started by getting my bachelor's degree in biology. I got that from Stanford University in Birmingham. Stayed in Birmingham for a little bit to go to medical school at the University of Alabama at Birmingham. Did a residency down in Florida at the University of Florida. And then I finished up with a fellowship at the Barrow Institute.
Do you hold any certifications in the field?
Yes, I am certified by the American Board of Neurosurgery.
Have you ever testified as an expert?
I've hired to consult on probably, I'd say 120 cases.
Dr. Adams, how did you get involved in this case?
Thomas, our client, reached out to me because Marie Newburn's injury is a spinal cord injury, and that I'm a neurologist. They wanted me to weigh in on their conduct and if that conduct ultimately contributed to the injury that Marie Newburn has.
Do you have any experience from football?
I will say that I am not a fan in my spare time, so I watch a lot of SEC football on Saturdays, but outside of what I'm sure most people would call fan capacity, I have worked on players who have received spinal injuries or suffered spinal injuries as a result of playing football. I believe it is probably gotten in my patient.
And without getting into your opinion, were you able to reach an opinion regarding the client's conduct as it relates to review of the injuries?
Yes, I was.
Did you rely on anything to form that opinion?
Yes, I relied on all the exhibits in this case, so that I believe that's 1-24, as well as the stipulations that the parties had agreed upon.
Did you apply reliable principles and methods to come here?
Yes, I did.
Are these the same principles and methods that others in your field rely on?
Yes, they are.
And is your opinion to a reasonable degree of professional certainty?
Absolutely.
Your Honor, the defense offers Dr. Meg Adams as an expert in neurosurgery.
Okay, any objections to that?
Your Honor, we just asked that they lay more foundations. What does it specify that they rely on reliable principles and methods that haven't testified as to what those are?
Okay, do you have any objection to the neurosurgery specialty specifically?
Not to that specific qualification unless they are able to lay that foundation for business methods, but at this time I just asked that they did that for the qualification.
Okay, we haven't heard an opinion yet, so I'm going to allow the witness to be tendered as an expert in neurosurgery. Counsel, if you want to lay some additional foundation as to those principles and methods, was that what your objection was to?
Yes.
Go ahead, and then if you think we still have an issue, you can re-raise your objection, okay?
Methods that you use to help.
Well, because it's a football play, there's a couple of things you have to do to kind of understand it besides just reviewing the exhibit, but you have to look specifically at the design of the play and then kind of full research backing on the play, what injuries, what the risks associated with those injuries are, and then use my 20 years in experience in neurosurgery and understanding how spinal injuries occur, to then apply that and understand kind of what happened here and now.
So Dr. Adams, after doing all of that, what was your opinion of this?
My opinion is that Klein's conduct was okay. I believe that based on the modifications that were made to the play, these modifications were necessary and understandable at the time for someone in Coach Powell's position, given the fact that the league was smaller in nature, as opposed to the professional NFL players that run the play.
You mentioned that you focused on the design of the play. I would start by talking about what factors did you consider when looking at the design?
Absolutely. So we saw it earlier in the monsters, but if you look at the formation of the quarterback sneak push, the players are huddled together and they're very close together. Not exactly in a huddle, but the offensive line are near side by side, quarterback directly behind the center, 3 people behind the quarterback, but they're all, kind of on top of each other in a sense. Given that, there's not a lot of room for them to be moving or creating a lot of force impact when the play is running. It's a very slow and controlled play.
Dr. Adams, did you recognize the picture of the Philadelphia Eagles running the QB scene which Star showed you?
I was.
Second quarter council was already been admitted as exhibit 8A. Permission to approach Dr. Adams with the same.
Sure.
Permission to publish exhibit 8A to the jury.
Yep.
Dr. Adams, this moment ago you mentioned impact. Using exhibit 8A, can you kind of explain what you mean by impact?
Sure. So when we're looking at exhibit A, you can see here kind of what I just described. That they're not exactly in a huddle, but they're not far apart from each other either. Every player is kind of almost right next to the person beside them. Given that, there's not a lot of force impact when these people are moving because they're not moving a long way. It's very, very different than someone running down the field as opposed to being in a formation like this because you're not exerting a lot of force when you run.
How is the execution of the TPC push different for high schoolers than it would be for NFL players?
Well, again, speaking of force impact, someone who weighs more and is bigger is gonna have a bigger force impact, implying on someone that they run into or collide with, as opposed to someone who's smaller in stature, smaller in size, which is the case for high school freshmen, especially when you're comparing it to, the big guys that you see here running for the people. So, given that we're dealing with freshman football players in this situation, the lower force impact just continues to get even lower.
So you mentioned a lot about the lower force of impact, but what would be an example of a higher force of impact?
Well, I kind of alluded to it earlier, but when you're running, you create more force. So, we see it when we see Hail Marys or other long distance running plays with wide receivers. Receivers running down the field, someone collides with them and there's no one else around, no one else to absorb that impact. That's a high impact play because 2 people are running at a high rate of speed and are colliding with one another.
Have any other high schools besides Line High School run the TPC push?
Yes, 2 other high schools in Texas ran the TBC.
Were there any reported injuries from those high schools associated with this play?
None that I see.
Dr. Adams, earlier you mentioned you also looked at the injury. Were there any injuries reported associated with this TPC push?
There were 2 in the NFL. 2 Giants players were running the quarterback sneak push, and it was 2 people that got injured.
Were those injuries spinal cord injuries?
No, one was a sprained knee and the other was a dislocated shoulder.
Did those 2 injuries occur during 2 separate plays?
No, it was actually on the same run of the quarterback sneak push from the Giants.
And were either of those players that were injured quarterbacks?
No,
Dr. Adams, we heard a lot of testimony today about Klein's modification of the piece. What is your opinion regarding that?
like I said, given the low force impact on a play like this, the problem though with someone Marie's size is that when that defensive line comes over, if they are able to, take over the offensive line, there's a risk that being upright is gonna send that quarterback back. What Coach Powell wanted to do by making Marie get lower was for him to avoid getting knocked back by defensive linemen because that would mean even more force impact would fall on him. So the idea behind Coach Powell's modification was if Marie could get low enough to follow the center right through the path created by the offensive line, that he would be underneath and past the defensive line before they ever had a chance to pass.
Were you in court today when Dr. Carter testified?
I was.
Did you hear Dr. Carter's testimony about how Marie's size contributed to the injury rate of the QVC push?
I did.
What is your opinion?
I don't believe that his size or age contributed to the injury in this case. Like I said, I believe that given Marie's size and being a smaller quarterback, the lower impact it was that play, that it was actually safer for Marie to run a play design in that fashion.
Dr. Adams, I want to talk about Marie's injury specific. What was Marie's diagnosis?
As we heard earlier, Marie suffered a comminuted cervical spine fracture at his C4 level, which was demonstrated for us earlier, resulting in quadriplegia, loss of motor and function.
This might sound like an obvious question, but is the QVC push the only way that will sustain this injury?
No,
Is the modified QVC push the only way that will sustain this?
no.
What do you mean?
Well, at the end of the day, football. There are some levels of risk every time a player steps out on that field and attempts to run any play, much less this play specifically.
Thank you, Dr. Adams. I have another question. Permission to retrieve the exhibit, Dr. Adams?
Sure.
And permission to retrieve the exhibit from the very.
Yep.
Exactly.
Talk a little bit about this one direct. In 2019, you started a litigation and consulting business.
I did.
All the work you've done for that business has been for the defense.
Yes,
And you still work as a neurosurgeon too.
I did.
You only spend one day a week at the hospital.
Right, as an attending surgeon.
The rest of your time you spend on that litigation business.
Right.
For the past 2 years, you've relied on that business for 90% of your income.
That's right.
Now, the same year you started that business, you met your friend, Jackie Powell.
Right, he needed surgery and I was going to perform his spine surgery.
You performed that surgery and you also provided follow-up treatment.
I did, as I do for all my patients that require some follow-up treatment after a spine like this.
And over that time, you became good friends.
Again, as I see most of my patients who have spinal surgery injuries routinely after their surgery.
So that's a yes, you became friends.
Yes.
Now, Jackie Powell is the head coach at Klein High School,
Yes.
the defendant in today's case.
Jackie Powell is not the defendant, but Thomas are fine.
Yes. Now, I want to talk a little about your work. Some of the players you've treated sustain their injuries playing football.
Yes.
Only 9 of the 1,000 surgeries you've done even involve football.
That's right.
And you don't work in sports medicine,
I don't.
so you don't regularly treat injured players,
No.
not regularly helping NFL players,
No.
college players,
No.
players for any level of football.
No.
So you specified that you believe that this play was safer than other ones.
Yes, because of the force of it.
Right, because of the force. And part of the reason we believe it's lower force is because of Marie's smaller size.
That's right.
But Marie's smaller size wouldn't be the only thing that affects the force.
But there's a lot of effects that go on to force. That's just one of them that has to be a lower impact.
Right, the size of the other players, that would affect it as well.
Right?
And Marie was 5'2" and 110 pounds.
Who else?
And the average wide in the contest is 5'10"
Yes.
and 200 pounds.
On average, yes.
Right, that would average mean some of the players were even bigger than that.
Possible.
And even though you've talked about the force being lower, you don't actually know the mass of the players that were pushing on Marie
No.
or the acceleration of those players.
No, that would be hard to calculate without being there.
Right, so you couldn't calculate the force that was placed on Marie's spine.
No.
Now, let's talk about how in this play it's safer because they're closer together.
Yes.
And in your deposition, you talked about how it's safer because they're face to face.
That's it, yeah.
Part of how this play is run, this is the quarterback, correct?
Yes, that would be J.D.
So he can see in front of him because he's face to face with the other players.
From this part, yeah.
Red flag. His head was down,
Right, so he could get underneath the line.
right? He was parallel to the ground.
Yes.
Exactly the way Coach Powell told him to be.
Right.
You've talked about how any play could have caused those injuries, but quarterback sneak push wasn't the only one.
You're right, yeah, it's not the only one.
Cervical spinal injuries can happen anytime a player absorbs force directly to their head or to their neck.
It can happen in many other circumstances too,
It can happen anytime that spinal compression occurs.
or someone stepping on the spine.
But with Marik's head down, spinal compression would occur in this play by design.
I don't agree with that.
You don't agree that with his head down, force would be absorbed directly to his head.
The
Correct?
design of the play is not for him to run into the center. The design of the play is for him to get the knee and around. That's the design.
What happens in the rest of that play?
He gets through the line,
He gets through the line always.
except for the one time that this happened, yeah. Or when he was knocked back because he was alone.
Well, the other players, they push back on the quarterback, don't they?
The three behind.
No, the three behind pushing forward.
Yes.
The defensive line, they push back.
Against the offensive line.
So Marik would be absorbing that force to his head and they push against him.
If he didn't get low enough to go around, yes.
But if his body was up, he would have been absorbing that force to his chest.
His body was up, he'd probably go back like he did in that game.
No.
Thank you, counsel. Any redirect?
Yes.
Dr. Adams, I think council spoke with you about your relationship with Coach Powell, so I just have to ask, did Coach Powell's relationship with you affect your opinion in today's case?
No, we're friends, but it started in Maine as follow-up treatment for a spine injury that I treated on.
Based on what you read in this case, were any of the clients NFL players as big as NFL players?
No.
Based on your review, can the average player at Lions football team produce as much force as an NFL player?
No, this is a freshman football team.
Dr. Adams, what was the purpose of the modified play?
Again, there were unsuccessful attempts, specifically the game that we heard about where Marie lost the yard and he did not get low enough to make it through. The design of the modification is so that he gets low enough to make it around the center and pierce through the line before he's ever even tackled to the force by the other.
Thank you, Dr. Adams. I have no further questions. Your Honor, Dr. Adams, please.
Anything else for this witness?
Just to brief remarks, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Talk about the purpose of this play being effective and letting smaller Marie get through. But let us be honest here, this is not the way you would recommend running this play.
That's what, yeah,
You would not recommend running it this way, correct?
I said it's not the way I would run it.
No.
Okay. Anything else for this witness?
Yeah, Your Honor, we have that, please.
Yes. Anything else from the defense?
The defense first.
Okay, before we take a very, very brief break and go into closings, do you have anything else from either party?
Your Honor, the defense reiterated their motion under Rule 50 of the Federal Rules of Procedure that no reasonable juror could find, even the likeness or influence of the non-party that claims that fine was negligent or that negligence caused Marie's injury. As we heard today through testimony, Dr. Adams just testified that this play was safe, and specifically the modification that Klein ran made this play even safer for Marie. Coach Powell also testified that he understood to his knowledge that this play was going to be safe for Marie because he made a modification with the size and height and weight of Marie taken into consideration. Because of those reasons, this mission would be granted.
Anything additional from your argument earlier that you'd like to add?
Yes, Your Honor, just like I have heard even further testimony from Coach Fowler, they didn't take any reasonable measures to ensure this play was safe. They didn't run it by the trainer, they didn't run it by the athletic director, they didn't run it by their friend, the doctor, Dr. Omega Adams. They didn't even look up why the play was safe. Furthermore, although we heard Dr. Adams say that they thought it was safer, they also had to admit on the stand that they wouldn't run it that way. And we heard that this injury was how the redesign this play for Dr. Adams. They had to admit that yes, they would absorb force to the head in the way this was run. And that is how we had this injury. Therefore, we'd ask that you can have this motion.
Okay, thank you for bringing the motion again. The motion is denied. We will take a very brief break so you guys can gather yourselves before closing, okay? I judged one round yesterday and then this morning and right now, and then I'm done. Yeah,
Wow,
none tomorrow. I'm free.
good work. You're a part of the program
Yes, I'm the associate director, so I work with
of the program.
Drexel's trial team. Yes,
Got it. Those are just the regular JD students.
correct.
And then there is a separate LLM program. How many students are in the LLM program?
No idea. I wouldn't think a great amount, but I don't know.
Has a big reputation. Are there a lot of those LLM programs in the country?
No idea. I know Temple has a pretty popular one as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. I
That's
don't
what
have
I
an
heard.
LLM, so I have no idea.
Gotcha. Nice. This is a national competition?
Yeah,
How many teams are there?
10, and then tomorrow it will go to the semifinals, so 4 teams will advance.
How do you decide which side wins?
Well,
Yeah.
you just score 1 through 10,
Yeah,
but there's no like verdict.
right.
Mhm.
So it's just aggregate total of however many points.
Right. Yep,
Okay.
yeah,
Hmm.
and you score them on advocacy. That worked pretty good.
Yeah, that's good. That's pretty good. It's
Yeah.
tough, to. Everybody's doing a good job.
Yeah, it is tough. Yeah.
Right, so. Imagine it's difficult for the team that doesn't win. Because
Yeah,
everybody's giving you an.
so I think judging is subjective, right? So I think, you know, I judged around this morning with my fiance, and I had one team, you know, the other team winning, you know what I mean? So
Yeah, split decision.
it's subjective, so it's
Mhm.
hard, you know, for students, I think,
Right. It's terrible.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a coin flip.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah,
What do they get if they win?
a nice shiny trophy. And street cred, right?
Oh.
Yeah. All right, you ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do we need a time check or anything?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have 20 minutes left. That's 27:28 left.
All right, so we should be more than fine. All right, plaintiff, whenever you're ready.
A brief moment.
Sure.
May it please the court. You can't risk a child's future to save your own. In 2024, Marie Barnes was a freshman in high school. A time when you start to look forward to what the future may look like. Plan for college, a career, hope for the future. But in September of Marie's freshman year, his future would change forever. Marie was the star quarterback of the prime freshman football team. And his coach, Jackie Powell, was going to have him run the sneak push, a play typically only done at the collegiate and professional level. So, Coach Powell wanted to run it a little bit differently. He wanted Marie lower to the ground, with Marie's chin tucked into his chest, so that when the other players were pushing on him to push him back, they were pushing on the top of his head. Marie ran it 3 times in practice and gained a yard every time, but Coach Powell still screamed at him and forced his head lower, told him to get down lower and lower. When they ran it in the game, Marie still wasn't good enough for Coach Powell. Coach Powell screamed at him and threatened to replace him with the other quarterbacks. And so when they lined up to play one last time, Marie did exactly what he was told. He got low to the ground, parallel, with his head down, so he couldn't see the players in front of him. And as his teammates pushed him forward, the defensive players were pushing him back. You heard Coach Powell say today that it was like exactly how she wanted it to be. That it was perfect. It was so perfect that when all the forces came together, it shattered Marie's vertebrae. And his life would never be the same. The future that Coach Powell and the staff at Thomas R. Klein High School that they were supposed to protect had been put at risk. All because Powell needed to win. He needed to win to save her job. Members of the jury, that is why we have brought a claim of negligence against Thomas R. Klein. That means we had to prove 2 things to you today. That Thomas R. Klein High School, through its actions or failures to act, was negligent. And that negligence caused Marie's harm. Negligence is simple. It's when somebody does something that they shouldn't, or should have done something that they didn't, that causes another person to get hurt. And today you saw that Klein High School acted and failed to act in ways that caused Marie's harm. And we couldn't just tell you that this happened. We had to prove it to you by preponderance of the evidence. And all that means is more likely than not. We had to prove more likely than not that Thomas R. Klein High School failed Marie. They failed him because they allowed Coach Powell to ignore the risks, ignore the bans, and ignore the warnings. Coach Powell ignored the risks in today's case. You heard from Dr. Kensington Carr, a sports medicine physician with over a decade of experience. And he got up on the stand and walked you through all of the injuries possible on the sneak push. Talked about the knee injuries, the arm injuries, concussions, but especially axial loading. And Dr. Carter even told you that the way Coach Powell wanted Marie to be increased the risk for axial loading. Dr. Carter also walked you exactly what happened to Marie's softball. When the quarterback sneak push is typically run, the force is absorbed throughout the spine. But when Coach Powell forced Marie's head lower, the force went right to his head, and it snapped his neck. But this is the risk Coach Powell didn't even bother to consider. You heard today, she didn't research that She didn't ask the trainer, she didn't ask her friend, Dr. Adams. She didn't consider it a step wall. She never considered that her alterations would harm Marie even more than running the sneak push. Now, opposing counsel said they couldn't predict this. Members of the jury, Coach Powell wanted a 100-pound kid to run head first into a line of 200-pound defensive players. It doesn't take an expert to predict that. It doesn't take an expert to know that that would cause an irreversible injury. It takes a reasonable person. It takes a reasonable person to decide it's not worth it. And you heard today that Coach Powell had other options. She didn't have to call the sneak push, and she didn't have to modify it. There were 13 other short yardage plays alone. There were 2 other quarterbacks. So she ignored these risks and chose to run it anyway. She had her 14-year-old player run the sneak push. The defense also called Dr. Adams. Now, despite Dr. Adams' clear bias by being Dr. Powell's or being Powell's best friend, they had to admit to some things today. They had to admit with Dr. Carter, they had to agree with Dr. Carter that high schoolers have weaker spines, making them more susceptible to spinal injuries. They had to agree with Dr. Carter that axial loading can happen in football, but especially on the sneak push and especially on the modified sneak push. Dr. Adams told you it was necessary to run the play this way. And then 2 seconds later, she said she wouldn't recommend running the play that way. So I ask you, which is it? Dr. Adams wouldn't recommend running the play this way because she knew it would cause spinal injury. But she didn't want to admit that. She didn't want to admit that Coach Powell had ignored these risks. Coach Powell also ignored the bans. You heard today a lot about the NFHS and the PAA. The NFHS had banned the sneak push. And the PAA adopted this rule in May of 2023. Now I know it wouldn't go into effect until the 2025 season. But a reasonable person doesn't hear that a play is banned and decide to run it anyway, just because it's legal right now. Coach Powell ignored this ban. Didn't even look up why it was banned. She knew that it had been banned in 48 other states, been banned nationwide. But she didn't ask anyone why it was banned. She didn't ask anyone if the play was safe anyway. She just ran. She should have considered this ban, but she didn't, and that is the definition of negligence. Finally, Coach Powell ignored all of the warnings. You heard today that she received an email that told her she needed to discuss the safety of practice plans with her trainers first. Her boss told her to do this. But she didn't do that with the sneak push. She didn't ask the trainer if it was safe, especially for high schoolers or especially for Marie. She didn't ask the trainer if her modification made any sense at all, if it actually would make it more safe. She never consulted with anyone. And she even got up on the stand and tried to say it was Clooney's idea to run the sneak push. But Clooney told you today that she had warned Coach Powell not to run this play. That she had warned Coach Powell it had been banned. She had warned Coach Powell that other players had already been injured running sneak push. And I want you to ask yourself, think about it. If it was Coach Clooney's idea, why did Coach Powell go along with it? She was the head coach. If it was Coach Clooney's idea, why did Powell call herself a pioneer for calling the play? Because she doesn't want to admit that she ignored the warnings. She doesn't want to admit that she risked a child's future to save her own. She did all of this because she needed a win.
She wanted to save her future as head coach. And so she put a child's life at risk. I want you to think about Marie. He's just 14 years old. And he trusted his coaches, his teachers, and his school to protect him. Because these people had an obligation to protect him. And to make reasonable decisions that would protect him. But you were saying that they didn't do that. So when you go back to deliberate, you'll be given the verdict form. So we'll look at question 1. Did the plaintiff prove more likely than not that Thomas R. Klein High School through the acts or omissions of its agents or employees was negligent? Members of the jury, you know the answer to that question is yes. So you'll move on to question number 2. Did plaintiff prove more likely than not that the negligence of Thomas R. Klein High School through the acts or omissions of its agents or employees caused Marie Lawrence's harm? And again, you know the answer to that question is yes. Because if Powell had considered the risk, she wouldn't have run this play. If she had considered the fans, she wouldn't have run this play. And if she had considered the warnings, she wouldn't have run this play. And Marie wouldn't be paralyzed. Klein High School failed this child. They failed because they allowed Coach Powell to make unreasonable and dangerous choices. They allowed Coach Powell to ignore the risks, ignore the bans, and ignore the warnings. Find Klein High School live. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Yep, take your time.
Football is a game we all know, young people. Coaches and players know that no 2 plays will ever be exactly the same. No matter how many times you practice it, no matter how perfect each play, the end result will always be there. But something can go wrong at any point. But what happened here? This specific injury, this rare, catastrophic injury, is something no one could predict. Those coaches, those players, not even you cannot prevent, but you cannot. And when City Newburgh brought this action against Klein High School, he claimed that they were negligent. She offered them a burden. A burden to prove by greater weight of the evidence that Klein did not act as a reasonable person would under the circumstances. And as a result, they were negligent. But members of the jury, no one questioned that Marie suffered a devastating injury. What happened to him? What he experienced? That's something that no one should ever have to know. And just like Michael Wells said at the beginning of the trial today, well, we understand that it might feel natural to want to find someone who, because Marie did not deserve what happened to her. But just because you feel like there should be someone's life does not mean that there is Sometimes unpredictable accidents happen. And you cannot prevent, but you cannot. Oh, which is why the plaintiff failed to meet their burden today. Because the evidence showed that Luke's injury was unforeseen. And as a result, Coach Pal and Coach Clooney acted reasonably when they took to have their freshman football team run the students. And because the plaintiff decided to focus almost their entire case today on how Klein's coaches should have been able to foresee that this type of injury would occur, that's right. Oh, we heard today that the QB sneak push was a play that is run all across the country at every level. And not just the NFL, not just college teams, high school teams run this play. And Dr. Potter told us today, this play has been run hundreds of times in the NFL. That means thousands of players have been involved in this play. But there have only ever been two minor injuries. A dislocated shoulder that was probably popped back into place in seconds, and a sprained knee that was still personal. Neither of those injuries were life-altering. And neither of those injuries resulted in paralysis, and neither of those injuries happened to a quarterback. Sure. Football is injuries. And injuries are to be expected. And some of them are injuries. But not season-ending, life-altering injuries sustained during the freshman football. But the plaintiff still tried to convince you today that this injury was somehow foreseeable, that Coach Pal and the plaintiff's coaching staff should have been able to foresee that this would happen. And they did this by bringing in Dr. Potter, who got up here today and used fancy words like axle loading and spinal compression to make it sound like he knew what he was talking about and was qualified to offer an opinion on something he had no business speculating. Dr. Potter is a family medicine doctor. Now, we are not discrediting how it occurred, or how much work it took Dr. Potter to get to where he is today. But just because Dr. Potter did a 1-year fellowship in sports medicine and works to foresee one thing, it does not mean that he is qualified to offer an opinion regarding a spinal cord injury, and it certainly does not make him qualified to offer an opinion regarding a spinal cord injury in a high school athlete. Dr. Potter is not a neurologist, he's not a neurosurgeon or a pediatrician. Yet Dr. Potter supposedly knows enough about children's musculoskeletal and neurological health to allow him to render an opinion that brings height and weight exacerbated his already existing concerns about the QB sneak push? Obviously, Marie was small. He was a high school freshman. But so is every other kid around. None of them were as big or as strong as NFL athletes. But that's the point. And it proves that you got opposite of what the plaintiff wants you to believe. Which is why you got to hear from Dr. Rebecca. Somebody who was actually qualified to render an opinion regarding the spinal cord. And Dr. Adams told you all about how Klein's run of the play created a much lower amount of force. Now, after Dr. Adams' 20 years of clinical and surgical experience, she knows a lot about injuries. She even told you that the play that time began was similar to the NFL and the way that the players were so close together. Because Klein ran a slow, controlled play. A play that had every single one of the players condensed, they were using yards. This created a much smaller amount of impact. And that's why this play was so safe for high school students. That side is injury. So unforeseen. Because even with a substantially less amount of impact, even with that play being run exactly how it's supposed to, murder still happens. But you cannot prevent. But you cannot which brings me to my second. Not only was Maurice's increase unforeseen, unpredictable, but Klein's conduct reasonable. Oh, we heard say that the QVC push, this wasn't just some experiment, stunt, or dangerous drill that Coach Powell came up with on his way to work one day. This was a short yardage play run successfully by teams across the country at every level. Now, the plaintiff wanted to make a big deal about the fact that Coach Powell didn't do any research on it, that he didn't know just how dangerous this play is. The members of the jury, we showed you. Out of the 316 times that this play is run, 315 of those times ended in fatality. There only are 2 reported injuries associated with this play. Now, if Dr. Carter could actually done what she was hired to do, the plaintiff would have known from day one that the QVC push, a play with only 2 reported injuries associated with it, was safe. But the plaintiff still tried to confuse you, and they got up here today and made a big spectacle out of the fact that the NFH has banned the QVC. But what they tried to shy away from was the fact that this ban didn't go into effect in Pennsylvania at the time that I ran that play. And even more importantly, the NFHS made clear themselves that this play wasn't just about safety. And this ban was put in place also to create a competitive balance. They wanted to even out the playing field between the offense and the defense. If the NFHS truly believed that this play was so dangerous they had to ban it, they would have stopped the ban and went like today was banned once. And if the Pennsylvania Athletic Association truly believed that this play was too dangerous, they wouldn't have waited until the next season to ban it. They would have banned it immediately. But they didn't. Because this wasn't about safety. Oh, we heard today, there's nothing more inherently dangerous about the QB sneak push than any other play in football. Which makes sense. And it explains why Pennsylvania is banned from it. It explains why there are no other reported injuries associated in the QB sneak push from high schools that ran that play. And it explains why Coach Powell chose to run it. And despite the plaintiff wanting to believe, Coach Powell wasn't risking his children's future just to protect himself. Coach Powell made a choice that any coach in her position would have made. She chose to run a play that was safe, a play that was successful, a play that had no serious injuries ever reported in association. Coach Powell chose to run a play that based on everything that anyone knew at the time was safe. No matter what happened, that does not make Blind High School or Coach Powell manage. Members of the jury, Coach Powell told you why she modified that. Sat right here today, she told you it wasn't about winning. It wasn't about putting her players out in harm's way to protect her job, and it certainly wasn't about putting the rig out in harm's way. Coach Powell modified that to make it safer for her. Because the one time that they ran the play the way that it was run in the NFL, Marie got pushed back. Marie got bent backwards. Coach Powell modified this play so that Marie could go right through the center and get to the other side without having an injury. Coach Powell modified this play because at the time, she thought that this was the safest way to run the play. The plaintiff had to prove to you today that what Coach Powell did was not this. That no coach in her position would have run that play the way that she did and did things that she did. Instead, all the plaintiff did was make vague arguments about how this modification of the play increased Marie's chance of injury. It has if arguing that the play was too dangerous to run wasn't enough. The plaintiff then got up here and contradicted themselves. And Dr. Carter got up on the stand today and told you he believed that they should have run the play. Well, because this play is so dangerous that they shouldn't have run it to begin with. Why does Dr. Carter believe they should have run the play anymore? Should Klein High School not run play at all? Or should they have done what Dr. Carter wanted them to do in key practice? The planet cannot have a field fence. There's certain non-times. Now, in just a few moments, the judge is gonna send it back to the verdict. They're gonna send it back to this. I'll know there's some questions that I just gonna take a moment to walk through. Now, the first question is gonna ask whether the planet proved by the greater weight of the evidence that Klein High School is met. Members of the jury, the QVC pushes a play that has been run across the country at every level. There has never been an injury like this associated with that play, ever. Let alone to a quarter. The evidence showed you that there was no way to predict that this type of injury. And because Klein could not prevent, but they could not predict. They answered the number one. And answer to question number 2 is going to ask whether you find that the planet proved by the greater weight of the evidence that Klein High School caused Maurice. Well, because Maurice's injury was unbelievable. Because there was no way to know that a play that had only ever had 2 reported injuries associated with it would cause the change. How to stop the injury? The answer to number 2 is awesome. Nobody disputes the seriousness of what happened. No one disputes the hardware. But the question before you is not whether this injury was says. It was. The question before you is whether this injury was foreseeable. Because the law does not require clients to prevent the unforeseeable. It just requires them to act reasonably under the circumstances with the knowledge that they had at the time. And at the time, Coach Howell chose to run a play that had been run successfully across the country without any serious injury. You have no reasons to believe that this moment would be any different. Because Coach Howell could not prevent what he could not predict. Thomas R. Klein High School is not live. Fine, not liable.
Thank you, counsel. Any rebuttal?
Yes, Defense counsel got up here and said that you cannot prevent something you cannot prevent. But members of the jury, this injury was predictable. Because it doesn't take an expert to know that bending a child's neck and having them run straight through 6 other players would cause an injury. This is predictable. As you heard today, Dr. Carter talked about the axial loading involved on this class, but especially with the alteration. This was predictable. And they said that if Jackie Powell had done more research, this is all that she would find. But she would also find Dr. Carter's report talking about the injuries associated with the English. And she would also find that it had been banned in 48 other states. And not just that it had been banned, but it had been banned for injury to underdeveloped players. That's why Jackie Powell was unreasonable. Because she never researched any of that. She never saw any of that when she should have. And that's why this was predictable. This injury was preventable. It was predictable. And Powell was unreasonable to not see that. Powell acted unreasonably because she ignored the risks, ignored the bans, and ignored the warnings. Fine, Klein High School, law. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Woo! All right, counsel, or Yes, Council, we are going to submit our ballots. And then once we get the all clear, we'll do some very brief feedback, all right?
If you want to, if you want to go out and chat, you can, but no need, whatever you guys want. Yeah. If you guys want to run out, no worries at all.